Hi, my name is 𝒊𝒔𝒊𝒏𝒈, and this is Missing Midwest, a true crime podcast about those that have gone missing. Today's story is about three friends that go to the beach and are never seen again. Did they leave on their own, or is there something more sinister going on at the Indiana Dunes? This is Missing Midwest, and someone knows something. Hi.
Hey.
Ready for another episode?
Let's do it.
Episode 10. Can you
Big
believe we have 10 episodes?
Double digits.
I'm so excited.
Here we are.
When we first started podcasting, it said most podcasts don't make it to episode 8. So I was excited to make it to 8, but 10 just feels better.
It feels more
my OCD.
official.
Yeah. 10 episodes feels good.
Smack. Number
nice
10.
Number.
Yeah.
You know what's stressful? Buying and selling a house. Just over a year ago, we were in the middle of the process and it was overwhelming. I am so thankful that we had someone like Amber to guide us through the process. She knew what to do and when to do it. You were so concerned about pricing and loans, and I was just concerned with the colors and the layout. Oh, you remember that?
Yes. Amber kept everything in mind, and we are in our dream house because of her. If you are looking to buy or sell in or around the Howard County area, you have to give Amber a call, or you can just give her a text, 765-865-1118.
You can follow her on Facebook at Amber White, Realtor/Broker with 𝒊𝒔𝒊𝒏𝒈 Associates. She posts the latest listings, giveaways, and even helpful home tips.
We are so grateful for Amber and all her help.
So today we're going to the Indiana State Dunes Park, which we were just up there.
Yeah. Northern Indiana, Southern Michigan.
Yep, we were just up there a couple weeks ago with our kids. So we took a little trip. So I know for a fact there's some Dollar Generals up there.
For sure.
I'm not really in like a town. It's in the state park. So I didn't have like I looked on the map. There's 3 Dollar Generals around there. If that makes you feel better.
Like in the area?
In the area. However, we are going back to 1966. So I don't even know what the history of Dollar Generals are, but I don't know that there was any in 1966.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you today about the disappearance of 3 women, okay? 3 friends that went missing all together, okay? Ann Miller was age 21. Patricia 𝒊𝒔𝒊𝒏𝒈 and Renee Bruhl were both 19. These girls, they were 3 friends. They decided to take a little day trip for the 4th of July weekend to the Indiana Dunes Park. It was July 2nd is the day that they went missing. They were going to celebrate the weekend there. And so they drove about 60 miles from their homes in Chicago at like 10 a.m. on that day. They parked Ann's car, which was a Buick, and they parked it about 100 yards away from where they were going to set up camp for the day. So they got out, and they made their area for the day. They set their towels up, their umbrella, all their stuff. It was really busy that day. The Park Service estimated that there was like 9,000 people at the beach that day. This beach is super popular. You know that. Anyone from this area probably has heard of the Dunes Parks up there. It's a gorgeous area. You can go up there and swim and hike. There's just like so much to do. If you haven't listened to Park Predators, go do it. It's about murders in different national parks. And so it's a really great, I don't know if she's done any episodes in the Indiana Dunes Park, but
I don't know, but I love that podcast.
It's a really good podcast. Anyway, it has nothing to do with this. It just reminded me of that. So even though that there were like so many people there, they didn't like go unnoticed, like the 3 girls. So there was like witnesses that happened to like see them that day. So, there was a couple that was sitting not far from them on the beach, and they saw them get out, and they came up, and they set up their camp. They said they saw them. They laid their towels out. They had a radio, some tanning lotion, their belongings, their personal belongings. And they said that the girls walked up and they all went into the water together. And they said they almost immediately started talking to a man in a boat. There was a boat, like boats that were out in the water, people boating that day. And so they were like wading in the water, and there was a man in his boat. They said the boat was like 14 to 16 feet long, blue interior, had an outboard motor, which is like the motor on the back that like you can steer the boat with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Don't act like you know anything about boating. I'm trying to explain it to you.
I'm trying to not interrupt your story.
It's like the motor that goes over the back, and you can dip it in the water and steer the boat with.
I know what that looks like.
Okay. Did you know it was called an outboard motor?
I didn't, but when you said outboard motor, in my head I pictured the motor that's outside of the boat that you can steer.
Don't lie. Anyway, so you could raise and lower this motor into the water, and it powers the boat and it steers the boat. This couple said the girls got in the boat and they appeared to like know this guy, and they started talking to him, and they got in the boat and they headed west. with this man. Obviously, they didn't think anything of it. They don't know these girls. Like, they're just here for a day at the beach. It wasn't until that night at, like, dusk when the sun was going down and these people realized, like, those girls never came back. And all their stuff is right over here beside us on the beach. And so they didn't really know what to do. And so they just, like, reported it to, like, the first person that they saw that looked, like, important, I guess. And so a park ranger actually, like, gathered up their stuff and just took it back to one of their, like, little areas to keep it safe because it had, like, their car keys and their purses and everything. And so they just figured they'd be back eventually and they'd be asking for it or whatever. Lost and found. So it wasn't until July 4th, Renee's dad called over to the parks department and was like, my daughter has been missing for 2 days. Like, she came to the beach. She hasn't came back. We don't know.
Scary stuff.
Yeah, we don't know where she's at. We haven't seen or heard from her in 2 days. She was supposed to be back to cook dinner for her husband on the 2nd, the day that they left for the beach, and she hasn't came back. And so the other family members were, like, quick to follow his lead, and they reported their daughters missing as well, their family members. And so an official search for first of all, the dad was told that they probably were just having too much fun and they hadn't came back yet. I feel like that happens in every single case.
Yeah.
They tell them not to worry about it because they're adults. But on July 5th, after the other family members, and so they realize now, okay, we have 3 girls. They're all missing. It's been 3 days. They should have been back by now. So they started an official search for them. The authorities found the car in the exact spot where the couple said they had, they parked it in right beside the beach. And then all these witnesses started coming forward saying that they had seen the girls that day. They saw them swimming. They saw them get on a boat talking to this guy. Another witness came forward and said, well, I saw them get off the boat. So the one couple said they saw them get on the boat. And then some other people were like, yeah, we saw them get off the boat. And then some other people came forward and like, we saw them get approached by a second boat that was actually bigger. And so this was later in the day. There was a bigger boat that came along. This one was like 24 to 26 feet. This one had like an actual cabin on it, and there were 3 men on it. And the girls boarded that boat, and they were talking to those people, acted like they knew them. Nobody thought anything of it.
It was weird,
there was nothing weird. They just, nobody, but now, when they pointed it out, they missing, they're like, yeah, we saw those girls, get on a second boat. And so one witness even had his camera footage from the day, like he was there with his family. And so he gave the police that. And the police did find the 2 boats on the camera footage in the background. And it matched the description of the witnesses. The first boat was shorter, had 1 man. The second boat was longer. And both times, I'm sure it was like not that great of quality.
1966, yeah.
But both times they could make out like 3 women on each boat that matched the description of the 3 women. And so they're like, yeah, like we think.
So they're on a bigger boat.
Yeah, so they're pretty sure that actually happened with the camera footage and all the witnesses, the first boat and the second boat. And the footage was taken about 3 hours apart. So first boat, 3 hours later, second boat. So a lot of people found it strange right off the bat, that Renee's husband didn't report her missing. Renee was married. She was the only one that was married. She was one of the 19-year-olds.
I was going to say. I guess you got married at 19.
I was going to say, don't judge the 19 because, I got married when I was 19. And that was 2013, not 1966.
True.
She'd only been married for 15 months. But, again, they're married, and she didn't come home for 2 days. And she said she was going to be home to cook you dinner. Sir, why are you not calling to try to find your wife? If I ever don't come home for 2 days, I hope you call the police before 2 days.
I usually send you a message like you have an hour to respond or the 48 hour starts now.
He does that a lot. I can't imagine I could go 2 days without you like looking into it.
Yeah,
I probably
absolutely
can't even go 2 hours without knowing where we are.
That's right.
No, I appreciate it because you're going to get the investigators on. I trust you to make sure they do their jobs. So investigators found a letter in Renee's purse. And apparently it was a letter to her husband telling him that his priorities were not that good and that she was not happy in this marriage. He spent way too much time with his friends, too much time fixing cars. So it wasn't a great relationship. Still not a reason to not report her missing.
Right.
But it wasn't as happy as people thought that they were. Which this to me, it's like...
I mean, I'm sure you could have written some letters at some point.
I was going to say, it sounds kind of like she's mad that they're 19, first of all. How many times, I may have not have said, like, stop fixing cars with your friends, but how many times when we first got married was I like, stop, you're not going, like, you
Yeah.
wanted to still hang out with your friends, and
Yep.
but we were married, and it was like a weird time,
Yep.
especially since we were like children. And we lived on a college campus, so you were always going and hanging out with your friends, and I was like, no, we're married, stay with me. I probably wrote a letter to you as well, and it was
It
probably
could've
a lot
happened.
more mean than Renee's.
It could have happened. And it most likely was.
Also, so her family was like, okay, like, maybe she was mad and she wrote that letter, but like their marriage isn't that bad. Like she obviously didn't even give it to her husband. It was in her purse.
Yeah.
So her family was not really concerned about it. They're
I'm
like,
also not concerned.
You know, yeah. They're like, it's not that big of a deal. So the police kind of focused on that at the get-go, but it kind of like the family kind of explained that away.
Yeah.
However, Renee wasn't the only one with a little like personal issue going on. So apparently a few days before this disappearance happened, Anne, the 21-year-old, had confided in some of her close friends that she was 3 months pregnant with a married man's baby.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he wanted nothing to do with it. And so she planned on moving into a home for unwed mothers to like have this baby because she had nobody to help her. And so she had told her friends that. It was also rumored that Patricia was pregnant. So we have 2 girls that are pregnant by married men. Patricia's was a married man as well. And one is having possible marital issues. So they're gone. All 3 of them, same time. So theories. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
Okay.
I'm very confused.
Yeah. So is everybody because they're still gone. Nobody's ever found them. Number 1, boat crash. There were no boat crashes reported, but they did find a few days later some debris floating in the water, like a few miles from where they went missing. So they thought, you know, there might have been a crash, and them and the people on the boat
I'll
died.
just say, are there 3 missing dudes?
Exactly.
Because if not, then that rules that out for me.
Yeah, so not probable. The next one was accidental drowning. This actually is a possibility because that is a dangerous lake. Out of all the Great Lakes, Lake Michigan is the most dangerous. And out of all the drownings between like all of the Great Lakes combined, Lake Michigan accounts for half of them.
I feel like it's the biggest, most swam in one too, though.
It's like a freaking ocean. It is like there's currents. I mean, it's just a really dangerous place actually, and so it happened. There's a lot of drownings there. However, it is. I did read that almost everybody that drowns in Lake Michigan, their bodies recovered, and so they were like 3 people drowning. Not to mention,
where's the dude drownings?
Patricia. The dude.
Like if it was like everybody drowned accidentally, like you'd still have 3 missing dudes.
Well, that's saying that like maybe they got off the second boat, nobody saw that, and they just drowned in the water or something.
Not in on this theory.
What?
Said I'm not in on this accidental drowning theory.
Okay, yeah, especially when you find out that Patricia and Anne would swim 20 miles a day for fun. So they were
Maybe
really,
they just
really
swam to
good
Canada.
Swimmers. So Patricia and Anne were both really good swimmers, and Renee, they said she knew how to swim as well. She didn't swim 20 miles a day, but so the odds of them all 3 drowning together was slim.
I don't like that.
Yeah. And so this leads us to the most probable theory, in my opinion. So all 3 women were friends, and they met at the Tricolor Stables where they rode horses together. I love horses. I really want a horse. Anyway, Janice Morandi was Patricia's sister. And in an interview with Dateline, she explained how, like, when they were growing up, they were super close. She said they had a really sad childhood. She said she can't remember her parents ever hugging or kissing her or holding her or telling her they loved her. And I cannot wrap my head around that because I'm pretty sure I tell my boys I love them like 497 times a day.
Yeah, that's very sad.
Yeah. And so she said they only had each other, and there was these horses next door, and they used to like walk, and that's what they did. And so Patricia grew up loving horses. And so when she got older, she bought herself a racehorse, like when she was 19. And so that's how she met the other 2 girls at these stables, because that's where she kept her horse. And so Patricia actually, like I said, she saved up her money, which, yes, girl, she wanted a horse, and she did. And she bought a racehorse, and she decided she was going to race this racehorse. And she bought this horse for $1,500, and come to find out he was good, and he started winning. And the people she bought the horse from were not happy, and they came back to her, and they wanted the horse back. Like, they wanted to buy it back from her, and she was like, heck no, like, we're winning money. This is my pet horse. And so that her sister kind of speculated that maybe that had something to do with it, because she said they were pretty mad about it. And then she also said there was an issue where there was a race that the horse was in, and Patricia's jockey that she had hired, Patricia said he held the horse back and made him lose on purpose, and she fired him on the spot. Like, girl boss. Patricia's boss.
Yeah.
And so her sister kind of speculated that Patricia had a few enemies. And then we have Renee with the marriage issues. And then we have Anne, who's pregnant and nowhere to go. And so a lot of people speculate that these three just left.
Like,
just
the
started
leading
a new
theory
life.
is that they just were like, out of here.
So this theory, and there's one more that are my top two, but I mean, they both had, or all three of them kind of had reasons to kind of disappear. They were all having issues. What do you think?
I'm not on board, but I just feel like those issues, like they were like, hey guys, we all have these problems, let's run away together. Like, that was the plan.
And start at the beach. It doesn't make sense very
Yeah.
much. But, so her sister also reported that just a few days before her disappearance, Patricia came to her and was crying and said, "I'm in a great deal of trouble." And she said she knew her sister was dating a married man and she had suspected the pregnancy. And so she said, like, "Are you pregnant?" And Patricia said, "I wish it was that easy." And she said for the next couple of days, she did not act normal at all. She was acting super strange and nervous and scared. And then she went to the beach with her friends and never came back. So the sister says, they all kind of had a reason to disappear.
Wow.
So I guess we can move into the next one. So this is kind of, all of this information is going to kind of run together. So Renee, we had Renee with the marital issues, and with the pregnancy, and then we had Patricia with the suspected pregnancy.
Yeah.
So apparently there was this, abortions were illegal. There was this like floating abortion clinic on a houseboat that this husband and wife were running, and you could pay to go there and have an abortion, because in Illinois where they lived it was illegal. I believe this was out of Michigan, and so they were doing it on the water, like low-key hiding it, And so apparently this man named 𝒊𝒔𝒔𝒊𝒏𝒈 Jr., it was his aunt and uncle that ran this abortion clinic. He was spotted at the beach that day and in a boat, and he matched the descriptions of the man that was on the boat, and his boat matched the description. So people were speculating that
Interesting.
they might have all went together to go have an abortion, and they made plans. He was going to pick him up, take him back to his aunt and uncle's abortion clinic on the water, have it done, and then they would be back. That's why they left their stuff on the beach, because they thought, we'll be back in a couple of hours. Maybe something went wrong. Maybe one of them died during the procedure, and then the others just had to be killed to get rid of witnesses or something. So that's kind of a big theory. How do you feel about that one?
I mean, that makes more sense to me than the others, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can see that one. Ralph passed away in 2009, so he said that he was at the beach that day. He confirmed he was at the beach. He said he did not know the girls. He denied everything.
It's coincidence, and I don't like him.
Yeah, and he looks weird. Google him. He's kind of a sketchy looking dude. Looks like a little rat.
We talk about every person that looks weird. We'll have too many episodes.
Anyway, so like I said, he took that with him when he died. So we don't know about that one, but I do think that's kind of possible. The other theory, and this is the main one, my main one. I think this is probably what was going on. So this theory is that the girls were involved in the horse syndicate, which was this like creepy underground like mob horse racing ring thing that was ran by a guy named Silas Jane. This guy was a really, really bad dude. He had a brother named George Jane. Okay, I said brother. Some reports said half brother, some said brother. One of the two. But they were both like well-known, very wealthy horse dealers. And George had his stable was the Tricolor Stables. George owned it. These brothers had a huge feud going on over horses and finances and ownership and all of this stuff. And so a few months before the disappearance of these girls, the fighting was getting super heated between the brothers, and George was at his stable, and he asked one of the other girls that worked there, she was an equestrian, her name was Cheryl Rude. He said, hey, can you go move my car for me? And she said, sure. She got in the car. When she started the engine, it blew up and killed her.
Wait a minute.
It was meant for George. The bomb was planted by an associate of Silas.
His brother.
His brother had hired somebody to put a bomb in his car because he was so mad about all of this feud that they were going on.
Whoa.
He was trying to kill his brother. George was so shook up by this, he actually invented the automatic start for a car so he could start his car without getting in it. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Little fun fact for you.
I'm bored. I'm just going to revolutionize the way cars get started.
Yeah. So, well, he was worried. He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't want to start his own car.
Yeah.
So maybe these girls saw somebody placing the bomb, or something else. The girls boarded their horses at George's stable, the tricolor stable, but they frequently rode horses at Silas's stable. 4 months prior to their disappearance, Renee actually came home and she had a big cut on her face. And when her family asked her about it, she just like brushed it off and said, the syndicate people. Like, what? Also, sidebar, don't worry. 30 years after the murder in 1999, the guy that placed the bomb, he was tried and convicted, and Silas was dead, but he said that Silas paid him $10,000 to kill George. And he said he planted the bomb, and he said he saw Cheryl walking toward the car, and he just didn't want to give himself away for the bomb, so he just let her get in it. And so, he was sentenced to 200 to 300 years in prison. He applied for parole in 2020 and was denied. Good. You
deserve to be in jail.
You deserve to be in jail. Yeah, you killed somebody. So let's talk about Silas for a minute. The absolute monster of a person
that tried to kill his brother.
He tried to kill his brother more than once.
Nice.
He had a huge criminal history. It sounds like it started when he was 8 years old. He was on his family's farm and he got bit by a goose, and he decided to kill every goose on the farm with his bare hands. Just sociopath from 8 years old.
Yikes.
On. When he was 17, he raped a girl, spent a year in jail. Later on, one of his employees at the stables, actually there's like a murder, like a pretty well-known murder. 3 young boys were killed, and he found his employee with the bodies of the 3 young boys. But rather than turning him in, he just helped him cover it up because he didn't want the reputation on his stable.
What?
So he didn't turn him into the police. He just was like, oh, I don't want my property involved. Like, let's get rid of these bodies.
So covering up crimes is in this guy's background.
Yeah. He was also known to use his horses to get close to young girls and then like assault them. He tried to kill his brother, George, many, many times. He poisoned 2 of George's horses. He set 10 of them on fire and let them burn alive, their horses.
What?
Yeah, he just hated his brother. He would hire people to try to run George off the road. Random people would shoot at George, and George just knew it was his brother trying to kill him again.
Dang brother.
He eventually made good on his promise. This is actually really sad. On George's son, it was George's son's 16th birthday, and they were all playing cards around their dining room table, and somebody walked up to the kitchen window, shot and killed him right there in front of his family. And Silas had paid that guy to kill him. Like,
what?
Silas could be
the worst.
His own podcast because he's just, like I said, a
terrible
monster,
human.
Terrible human being. But he was like connected to a lot of other disappearances of women. He just complete chaos of a life. He had actually told a sheriff that he had 3 bodies buried on his property at one point. The sheriff was going to start an investigation into it, and then he mysteriously died in a farming accident, and nobody ever followed up on it.
Silas died?
No.
Oh, the sheriff.
That Silas had told he had 3 bodies. 3 women missing. He said he had 3 bodies, and then all of a sudden this sheriff disappears in a farming accident. Oh, he didn't disappear. He died in a farming accident. Listen up. If you're a small business owner like myself, you understand the value of time. There is always something to be done, and it's up to you to do it. Your business is your baby, and you rarely can trust others with it. But what if I told you that I had somebody that you can trust, someone that can save you time and help your business grow? I do. With Bo Digital, you have access to an entire team that will be there for you with marketing and advertising. It doesn't matter what the size of your budget or your business is. Bo can help you take the stress of marketing off your plate and free up your time to do more of the things you love to do with your business. Bo is a marketing company and a business partner, but my favorite thing about them is that they have become true friends. You can find out more about them and what they offer at 𝒊𝒔𝒔𝒊𝒏𝒈. Take it from me and put a bow on it. So yeah, that's the story.
Yeah.
They've never been found. Patricia, Ann, and Renee have never been seen or heard from again. There have been many reported sightings of them. However, none have panned out. Patricia and Renee would be 75 years old today, and Ann would be 77.
Yeah, that's a lot right there with the theories. I don't really love any of them, but one of them might be right. Like, there's no...
Almost everybody says that they actually said that in two of the women, their purses, they had scrap pieces of paper with George and Silas Jane, like their phone number, like scribbled on them. So like they know that they personally knew George and Silas was bad news. Silas hired people to do all his dirty work.
I was going to say, well, something that I've wondered from the beginning here, the guy they got on the boat with, who's that guy? Because like this isn't Facebook time. Like this isn't, you don't text somebody like, oh, hey, you know, I'll shoot you a text and I'll meet you at the boat.
Yeah. Like
it's either somebody that they met right there or somebody that they had, you know, somehow had an acquaintance with that they planned on.
So that's what a lot of the witnesses said, that they seemed to know all the people on the boat. So were they just waiting in the water and a guy came up and offered them a ride? They got on that boat and then they got off that boat and then the next boat was the abortion boat, or was it, somebody that Silas hired to seek them out? I can't imagine if you were going to disappear that you would start your disappearance off at a crowded beach like that.
Right.
I also can't imagine
why would you take
that
your
if
beach
you were
stuff,
going
you know,
to,
like...
Yeah, but if you were going to pay somebody to make 3 people disappear, I don't know that you would take them from a crowded beach either.
Exactly. 9,000 people on that beach is what you said earlier.
The busiest day of the year.
Yeah, let's disappear in front of 9,000 people. Yeah. That's not a hired job. It doesn't sound like to me. So I guess, like, to me, the theories that, I mean, the running away theory, at first I was like, most likely not. But, like, you know, as I look at the other theories and think about it, I mean, you know, if you're out there and you were born in early 1967 and you have no clue what your parents' past was up in northern Indiana, Michigan, Chicago area, maybe think about a couple things here. And then otherwise, I mean, goodness, as far as the abortion clinic goes, like, does anybody know of any sketchy abortion clinics that were around the area where, you know, you heard rumors that things went bad on those boats? Like, I don't even know.
I mean, if they were really running something like that, like, yeah, they would be definitely
I'm sure there was,
scared
back then when it was illegal, I'm sure there was something out there like that.
I'm sure, and I'm sure they would have been scared of getting caught. So if something would have went wrong, because like Renee wasn't even pregnant, but if she would have been there, you know, and from everything, they were all 3 pretty close friends. So that's something you would have went and done together, I guess. I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, I think any of them could have happened. Yeah. It's just crazy to me. Usually when we do cases, it's like one person. Like, how do 3 entire adult human beings go missing and never seen or heard from again?
Yeah.
I also want to know about the Silas thing. If he said that he had bodies on his property and this sheriff was going to investigate it, but then he died and nobody followed up on it, like, did we ever look?
Yeah. I mean,
I couldn't find anything about.
Still be there?
They said it never panned out.
The property now, like,
exactly. I don't know. Oh no, the property now. I did read this. It is still owned to this day by the Jane family. Silas's great nephew runs it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness.
In Illinois. Can you believe that?
That's a lot.
So they say if they are still accepting tips on this case, they still get them every now and then.
Yeah.
If you know something or you heard something or you have anything that you think would be helpful, you're encouraged to call the Westchester Police Department at 708-345-0006. Yeah, someone has to know something, right?
Even, you know, however many years later.
Someone knows.
This podcast is a So.Will.I.Studos production. So will I.